the cheesiest, the Pizza Boy, Bailey Shank, Pizza Boy Metalworks. I think what you are self-described motorsport machinist.
Yeah, that's how it all started. I decided that I wanted to create motorsports products, and it's kind of funny how it's just kind of snowballed because now I'd say probably only 5 or 10% of the work that I do is motorsports related, and everything else is like industrial maintenance and small batch production for other people. But I'm happy with it regardless. Yeah, it's just motorsports, custom motorsports products are cool, but there's a Venn diagram, and it's people that want custom one off motorsports products and people who can afford custom one off motorsports products. And then here's me in the middle of said Venn diagram. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but it definitely kind of limits. I would like to be able to help more people, but there are people who do not understand the associated costs with custom one off products.
Yeah. So actually, we have another topic I know you really want to talk about, but that brings me to a question I'm
They tie
curious about.
together.
Yeah, sort of. Um, what is it like for you on the economy of scale? Like if we're talking somebody wants like a one-off, let's say 50 parts, 100 parts, 500 parts, right? How much of that cost is baked into your upfront labor in like a one part versus, say 500 parts?
The majority of, I don't know how to answer this technically enough for you. I don't really charge hourly. I do a
Right.
lot of flat rate jobs, I guess you could say, where I
Hmm.
throw a number, and if it's all quoted work. So if it takes me an hour or if it takes me 10 hours, I'm getting paid the same amount of money. Obviously, as flat rate goes, you are sorry.
You've got a
You're
risk in not putting the right number out there and screwing
right.
yourself in some
But
jobs.
that's with flat rate, you're kind of encouraged to do it faster because the
Hmm.
faster you do it, you're on to the next job. And
Right.
so, I mean, I'll go piece rate on stuff. Like if I'm doing small parts where a local customer is like, "Hey, we need 25 of these," I'll
Hmm.
figure out what it's going to cost me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do them for $25 a piece or something like that." Versus a place that I worked previously, we did a lot of jobs that were time and material. Well, it might take me 3 hours to do something, but it might take somebody else 7 hours to do something just
Yeah.
because they're not experienced. Why should the customer be charged $700 one time and $300 the next? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I got away from doing that. Um, just I like to figure out what things are going to cost per part, and then I
Yeah.
can move and scale that based on how many of them you want. Like, obviously, if I'm going to charge you $1,000 for one of them and you decide, hey, I want 150 of them, okay, well, your material only comes down as you buy it in
Yeah.
bulk. Um, you're still going to have your associated tooling costs,
Hmm.
machine uptime. Like, there's I'm probably not the best person to teach people how to quote because I was
You're
never
still figuring
properly
it out
taught
too.
how to quote. So I have friends that I bounce ideas off of, and I'm like, "Hey, this is what I would quote this at. Can you give me like, am I high? Am I low? Where am I at?"
Hmm.
And I've kind of gotten a good feel for it that way. And I hate that it's like that, where it's like, "Hey, this is my answer. Can I compare it to yours?" But like, I'm not an expert. I
It's
I
just
love what I
experience.
do,
You
but
have to
it's
build it up.
right, and that's I'd be lying if I told you I didn't lose money on jobs where I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that in 3 hours, and I quote it at 3 hours when I was still. That's why I got away from the hourly stuff because it was like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, I can do that in 3 hours. Well, then I forget that like I have to buy material to build a fixture, and then I need to spend 6 hours to design and program and build the fixture. And I'm like, well, okay, well, we just lost 600, 700, 800, fifteen
Yeah.
hundred dollars on a job to make $300 on paper, which
Yeah.
it's all a learning experience. With anything, there's a learning curve, and it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, the cat was in the room and then it lost contact to the server. So the last thing I said was, or the last thing I heard you say was, I should have asked Josiah about that.
Yeah, I was just thinking I should have asked Josiah about um how he's running quoting and pricing and how he comes up with some of his numbers, because right, he's on the total other end of sort of the scale spectrum with running a totally
He's got
internal,
he's
like,
got internal product line, and that's,
yeah.
this is something, and anybody listening, I hope that you can learn something from me. Josiah is on another playing field, and Josiah is somebody that I look up to very much. Um, every young kid that says they're going to get into this and do this, and I know you and I talked about it a little bit the other
Mhm.
day with my Instagram starting to grow over the last week or two. I've had a lot of kids reach out and they're like, hey man, I'm going to start a shop when I get out of college and I'm going to do this and do that. And I'm like, that is a great goal. I think that's a great idea. You also need to remember that a guy like me is a dozen years into the field.
Mhm.
I'm six figures plus into tooling equipment. I don't even have my own shop. I'm running out of my parents' shop. Um, like there's a lot of time and effort and money and logistics involved with it, and I'd like to say that I didn't fall victim to that as well, but I was young and naive and I said, "Oh, I'm just going to go start a motorsports business and I'm going to make products." And I think it was because I saw people like Josiah, Chase Bays, companies
Mhm.
like that where they have the internal product line, and you get into it and you're like, "Man, this is actually a lot more difficult when you're getting started." Once you build that customer base in that
Yeah.
market, I'm sure it snowballs a lot better. But that's my advice to anybody listening that says, I want to go start a motorsports business. Go do it. I'm encouraging you to go do it, but it is going to take a lot more to get started. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, I can just go buy a CNC machine and I can just start making race car parts. Well, you need to be able to sell those race car parts, or you're doing it
Yeah.
for the love of the game at that point. And a
And
business
you need to
is to
be,
solve problems.
yeah. Well, and you need to know, I imagine too, because I kind of run into this on my end. I know tires really well. I know vehicle dynamics pretty well. Um, if you sat me down right now, or like, all right, man, design a full knuckle, I'd be like, oh, okay, let's do this. Um, if and then from there, if it came to, all right, I designed it, now I gotta make it, I can't fucking do that. Now I'm gonna have to go to someone like you. And so if you're in the machining side, you're like, okay, I want to make motorsports parts. Well, now you got to get someone that can design them, or you got to find people that have designed them that want to make them. And like, that meshing is that's hard.
And you've used a couple words here that this is all going to tie into the topic that you said that I
Hmm.
wanted to discuss: 3D printing. 3D printing
Yeah.
has been a blessing and a curse for the manufacturing world. 3D printing is incredible technology. It is incredibly user friendly and incredibly, I don't want to say cheap, but it is cost effective to get into at a grassroots level. However, now you have anybody that can get on GrabCAD, Thingiverse, any of these websites where you can just go on and download files that somebody else designed. Now you don't need the design experience. You can upload that STL file to whatever slicer software. I'm very ignorant when it comes to 3D printing, but I know what it has done for me as a machine shop owner, and it has driven me insane because now you have people with zero design experience, zero engineering experience, and zero manufacturing experience or machining experience. And because they have a little plastic box on their desk that's got a couple servo motors and some gears and an extruder, it can make them anything that they can find or anything that they can put their mind to. And it is not because it is a bottom up build platform versus a top down. It's additive manufacturing versus what I do, which is subtractive manufacturing.
Subtractive.
Yes. So now when you have a 3D printer, you are not limited by any geometric constraints because you are going from the bottom up. And if there is, say you're building something this shape for anybody that can see the video feed, it is going to print everything here. And before it comes over and puts this platform across the top, you can build a structure here to support that. So now you get into geometry that may not be, and machines have come so far, CNC machines have come so far with 5-axis and all of these crazy multi-axis machines. They are incredibly expensive for the most part. I mean, expensive. We're comparing apples to oranges here, but you
Yeah.
are limited by the motion of the machine plus the length of your tool plus the geometry of the tool holder. And that is where I get driven insane because somebody will 3D print something out of plastic and then they will bring it to me and say, "Can you machine this out of aluminum?" Sometimes I can, other times I'm like, I can't touch it. I'm sure somebody somewhere could. I'm not telling you it's impossible, but with my skill level and my equipment, no, it's not possible. Well, then you get people that, with anything, you'll get people that, okay, thank you for that answer. And then you get people that go, oh, well, my $300 3D printer can do that. What do you mean you have a $100,000 CNC machine and you can't do that? Are you stupid? And I'm like, okay, well, this conversation is clearly going nowhere because I just explained to you why it can't be done. But sorry, I'll get off my soapbox because that is okay. So to summarize, 3D printing is incredible technology, and the metal 3D printing stuff is super sick, but it is also not cost effective at all to get into. Especially, well, I
No.
shouldn't say not cost effective at all. There's people with a lot more money and a lot larger businesses than I have that, yeah, they can stroke a check for $750,000 and get a machine set up, and you're good to go. I'm a one man shop running out of a 1,200 square foot shop in Amish country, Pennsylvania. So it's like, for me to invest $750,000 or more into one piece of equipment, you better have the market to bring on the work, or you're just sitting there with a piece of equipment that's going to collect dust and eventually bankrupt you.
Yeah. Well, it's so you're talking about the 3D printing with the metal. It reminds me, I think it was Alex Martinez had, because, they did, I digress a bit, but I think some people in the social media space don't realize that Alex Martinez isn't just running a parts sales business. He also operates a marketing company. Um, like that was when he went from I think it was, what was it? Fitment. When he went from Fitment to Martini Works, like his intermediate step was Meta Martini. And so he does a whole marketing thing. And I've talked to him on that side before for my day job. And one of the first or earliest companies he supported was a company called Evology. And they do, right, the 3D printed metal parts. And the guy that was running that was talking about, at least from a motorsport perspective, that, they're coming in to do quick iteration, but this is race teams with money that are going to come in and they're going to buy these parts that they have to have in 3 days, and they're going to pay top dollar for it because they need to test an idea so that they can iterate, and then they'll go make that part on a CNC. Then they'll go
Right.
find the version that they can actually make out of aluminum that's going to have, really good durability and it's going to last. 3D printing, even in the metals, yeah, they can hold up for quite some time, but often it's like it is in that space, it is still like very much a rapid prototyping tool.
Right. And then another good example is Formula Z makes the Z pipe exhaust. I believe that's all titanium, but those are 3D printed. I don't have a visual for you, but it's a instead of doing like an X pipe or an H pipe in the exhaust, it's called a Z pipe and it has
Mhm.
weird crossovers. I'm not an exhaust engineer. I can't explain to you what the benefits are of them, but I know that they sound insane. I got to see them at PRI this year. They were at the Tycon
Oh, I
booth.
see. Okay, I just pulled it up. Yeah, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, they're
Um,
insane.
Wait, is that shit running through itself?
I
Yeah.
think so. The guy's name is
Okay.
Xander. He
Okay.
I follow him on Facebook, or at least I used to, and I know they had them at the Tycon booth at PRI. They had a Koenigsegg there that I guess they had done the exhaust with one of those on. So, I mean, when you have a multi-million-dollar car like that, what's
Yeah.
10 grand in exhaust or 20 grand in exhaust or whatever? So, 3D printed
Yeah.
titanium components. Okay, so if the Z pipe costs 3 grand, it costs 3 grand. You know what I mean? Like it's a completely different playing field.
Yeah.
Sorry, I,
Actually,
I
that's a
didn't mean to
good.
get on a whole tangent there, but they're a
Oh, you're
really
good.
neat product.
No, that is a cool product. Actually, I might try and track that guy down and talk to him. Just because I know nothing about exhaust either. So like, I want to know. Um, but yeah, so actually, maybe that's an interesting place to go with you and your business. You mentioned you're doing a lot of, let's say, batch run stuff for more industrial applications now. Um, and like with motorsport, obviously a lot of that it's going to be high dollar items to keep you in business. That's where like when you really see the hyper successful big money making companies, they're either pushing volume or they're pushing really high end product. Do you want to take your business towards that high end product direction at some point, or for you is it just like whichever way gets me there, you're happy?
um, yeah, I think I would rather go the high end route. And we're gonna sit down. We're gonna do another podcast probably 3 years from now. I'll be sitting in a
Yeah.
completely different setting. I'll be laughing at the things that I say now, just because I've watched how quickly things happen. I would like to go towards the high end thing or the high end route because I am a perfectionist to a fault, to the point where so I before I had my own shop, I was working for a company that did a lot of aerospace and defense work. And then when I left that company, I worked for a company that did a lot of steel mill, like subcontract stuff. So I was doing very large parts and very tight tolerance parts. Well, the problem with that is when you are as obsessive as I am, now that perfectionism that you have to have for 8, 10, 12 hours a day bleeds over into every other aspect of your life to the point where you're OCD about things that do not matter. And that's all part of being effective. I don't want to get on a whole tangent about like discipline and
No, I mean,
like
do it
life
like because
skills, but that's
go ahead and
I
do it because to me this is about like talking to people who are interested in getting into machining, right, or get interested in like running a business like this is reality gonna be reality for them. So
so machining on when you're doing aerospace defense steel mill stuff, anything with tight tolerances and a lot of the GD&T stuff, it will quite literally drive you crazy to the point where you are OCD about everything that you do, everything that you touch at work, at home. And it quite literally was driving me insane to the point where I didn't think I wanted to machine anymore.
ugh.
Which is funny because if you would have asked me probably 7 years ago, hey, are you ever going to buy your own machines? Are you ever going to own your own shop? I would have told you absolutely not. I didn't think there was enough money in it. I didn't think that it was worth the risk, whatever. But that was also me at 22, 23 years old, I didn't know anything. I thought I knew everything because that's just how that goes. But
Yeah.
um, so when I left the shop that was doing all of the large parts and the tight tolerance stuff, I went and worked for a fab shop company for about 5.5 years. And that was a rude awakening to kind of where I was at as far as the perfectionism and it driving me insane because the first day that I was there, I was given a piece of angle iron and they're like, yeah, mill a slot in this. And I'm like, okay, well, like, what's my tolerance on it? And they're like, literally mill a slot in it. And if it doesn't fit, we're going to fix it with a grinder and a hammer. And I was like, okay, these fabrication guys are a different breed. I had never done anything. Everything I did was always tight tolerance. So I worked there for 5.5 years. Probably, I learned a lot there, but I had also learned a lot in every other shop that I had worked at. I probably got into some bad habits with the fab shop place because there's a lot of things now where I can look at it and I'm like, or I'll look at a drawing that I'm quoting and I'm like, there is no reason for you to have some of these tolerances on here. It's somebody that's trying to impress their boss in the engineering office going, oh, well, this needs to be square to this within half a thousandth and this and this. And it's all compounding shit just to impress somebody that also doesn't know what they're looking at. But anyway, when I get into doing like my motorsport stuff and like the industrial maintenance stuff, a lot of the time with that, it's fab shop stuff where it's like, oh yeah, if
Hmm.
it's plus or minus five, it's tight enough. And when I say plus or minus five, that's your plus 5 thousandths or minus 5 thousandths
Hmm.
from your um, dimension that you were given. But then like you get into some of the product line stuff or like I do some white label parts. We'll get into that. I do cantilever suspension rockers for Matt Sixberry in Colorado, Sideways Fab. I do the suspension rockers. I do the machining. My buddy Chris does the anodizing, and then they get shipped back to me. I put the bearings in them. They sit on the shelf here, and then when Matt gets an order, I just drop ship them. So we've actually sold a lot of those recently. We have them in all over the states. Sent 2 sets to New Zealand, sent a set to France, and we just sent a set to Canada. So they're in 4 countries now. Kind of proud of that. And that's not, again, that's a part that Matt designed. I just make them for him. But when you get into something like that, the tolerances are non-existent for the most part as far as like your outside profile. I hold it to a tolerance, but that's just so it fits the fixture for the second operation in the machine. But the only tight tolerance on those is like the fit where there's a ball bearing that gets pressed in on either side
Yeah.
and you need an interference fit for that. So I hold that tight. Um I absolutely love machining. I don't know what else I would do. I think I'd be good at sales, but I'm also fairly antisocial, so it's nice to just go into my shop and turn on music or a podcast or whatever. I like to work by myself, but eventually
It's a
it's getting to a point now. I'm still not doing it full time, but it's going to get to a point very quickly where I go, "Hey, I'm doing this full time," to shit, I need to hire somebody because even now where I'm only doing it like I probably work on it like 30 hours a week between evenings and weekends, but it's also to the point where I'm like, oh man, I need somebody else to take over the books or the ordering or but that's the part that keeps it fun for me is the fact that I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off because if it wasn't busy and I had time to sit back and relax, it would all go by the wayside because, nobody else is going to hold me accountable to make sure that everything gets done the way that it needs to.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned the antisocial thing because like most of the people I've encountered in this space, right? Because I spent my whole career in OE. I spent like in my entire time working, it's all been OE, right? I've worked for Ford, I've worked for GM, I've worked for Stellantis, and then I did tires for Continental. Um, before my current job. So I've spent all my time doing OE stuff, right? So it's in the office, white collar, like most of my coworkers are like, hey, how was the game this weekend kind of shit. And then like I started interacting more with the aftermarket side of the industry in the last couple of years, and you guys are a lot of antisocial weirdos sometimes, man. Like
There's
get
a
together,
lot
have
of
fun, everybody has their fun, but like yeah, most people are like, how do I talk to people? I don't
the
know how to do
most
this.
fun you will see anybody from the aftermarket side have is at SEMA and at PRI. That's like those are my two favorite weeks of the year because we get all of my other antisocial friends from all over the country and all over the world into the same city for 3 or 4 days at a time, and it's fun. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's something. I don't have the white collar thing in me at all. I do not have the corporate and we talked about this like 2 weeks ago. You
Yeah,
posted your video about your like surprise unprofessionalism or whatever. And it's like
yeah,
even now like my day job, it's still a small business, but we have 13 branches. There's a level of corporate to it, but I'm on the blue collar side of it. But there's every now and then I'll be in a meeting and I'll say something and then I'm like, it'll come out of my mouth and I'll be like, oh, probably shouldn't have said that. But um, I don't know. I'm not antisocial from a perspective of like, I don't like being around people or I don't want to have fun, but my mind, and I'm sure you understand this as an engineer, my mind, and Josiah actually just posted a really good video about this last week about he's never had the luxury of clocking out at 4:30 or 5 o'clock
Mhm.
and then just going and sitting on the couch and oh I'll worry about this tomorrow. As a
Yeah,
business owner, you are on 24/7, 365, holidays, vacations, um, events, anything that you are doing. I'll be in the grocery store and I'll have to stop and take a phone call, and my mind will not let me like pace the grocery store. So I might stand in the aisle for 25 minutes till I solve whatever this issue is.
yeah,
It's things like that, and I think that's like a level of like A OCD, B ADHD. We're all weird in our own way. Every single
yeah.
person I know that has a business or a passion project or a side hustle, whatever it is, that's all you think about all day long. And even I think it makes it easier for me to stay home or stay in my shop because I can work on what is on my mind. Whereas, hey, do you want to go to the football game? Yeah, I'll go to the football game, but I will sit there and in my head, I'm just thinking about, okay, well, I have this job sitting at the shop. How am I going to fixture that? I want to program it this way. Hopefully, when I get to the computer, I remember that I wanted to program it that way, and hopefully, it all works out. But now I have to think of a secondary way that I'm going to do that in case my first thing doesn't. It drives Megan insane because she's like, you just can't sit still. You can't stop thinking about things. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, my mind is running, programming. Oh, well, I got to order that material. Oh, did we order the hardware for that job? Oh, I sent that batch of parts to anodizing last week. I haven't heard back from Chris yet. I better text Chris. Oh, it's 3 in the morning. I should probably wait until I wake up in the morning. But now I got to put a note in my phone to remind myself to do that. And hopefully I remember to check my notes when I wake up. It's nonstop. I
Yeah.
probably have ADHD or ADD or whatever. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I don't know. But like I said, if I wasn't running 900 miles an hour in every direction, I don't think it would continue to grow the way that it has or continue
Yeah.
to at least, you know, what's the word I'm
No,
looking for here? It wouldn't feed itself to where it's at.
no. You'd stagnate, and stagnating is at certain levels, like at a level where you're getting into that snowball. You stagnate, it's just gonna fail, right? You're not gonna
Right.
ever get over that hump, because that's what you're working towards, is getting over that hump to it being a full sustaining business and not something you're doing aside from your day job.
Right.
Yeah, no, I understand, right? Because like I said, right, I did white collar, I did corporate, I still do it for my day job. But I did the come home, I don't have anything to worry about. Like, I don't have to work now. And, like 320s, I drank pretty heavy, because I was fucking bored. Like, I was super bored all the time. I just played video games. And I didn't do anything with my time. Like, I did my basic requirements. I did my job. I worked out. And then after that, it was like, whatever. And I wasn't happy. Now it's right. Did some of the couple a little bit of work for Jordan, and then was like spending all my time researching. And now, right, like we talked about, like I spend all my time like studying, planning reels and stuff. Like how do I take this concept that most people would probably need 10 minutes to explain, and even then maybe they wouldn't get it right. And like, let's condense that down into like 2.5 and see if we can get people to understand it. That's what takes up my mind, all my brain space now. But I've had to take a step back and figure out, like, how do I stop, because I have kids, right? So it's,
Right.
how do I stop? How do I be present? And you mentioning the note thing, that one kills me, because I do that. Like, I'll be like, I gotta remember this one. I'll turn to my wife. I'll just be like, all right, you need to remember this one, because I'm not going to remember it in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And I'm going to need to, and I can't just like go run and write this down right now. Cause like I'm playing with Play-Doh, or, they're sitting there and I'm like, get up and write a note. And they're like, no, stay on the couch, Dad. And I'm like, fuck. All right. Yeah. I'm going to stay on the couch. But yeah. Like,
No,
how do I
I
get that?
completely understand that.
And plus, dude, like you mentioned
It's
the ADD, my desk right now is a disaster.
Oh,
Um,
I'm glad you can't see mine because there's all sorts of PCB stuff sitting here, and there's parts that need
dude,
reverse engineered over there. I'm like sitting here trying to focus on this, and everything keeps catching my eye. And now I'm playing the game of, oh, well, I got to get that quote out, and I got to do this, and oh, I think the hardware's on its way for that. And yeah, yeah,
I got my new passport 6 months ago. It's still sitting on my desk. Like, not just like
yeah.
on my desk, it's like sitting on a pile of papers on my desk.
So
And
let
then I
me
think
ask you
under that, what
this,
is this?
and
Some notes.
this
Oh
might
yeah, I
be
was
some
doing some equations.
This might be some free game for you on some other podcasts if you get to talk to other business owners in the industry. Ask them how good they are at opening their personal mail. Because, like, business mail that comes, I'll open that shit same day. Like, oh, machine payments here. I'm old school, so like my machine payment, I write a physical check for instead of writing them or like going online and paying it. All my other bills I pay online, like my personal stuff. And I think that's because my personal mail I will not open. Like, I open mail probably once every 2 months. I opened mail yesterday, and I was like, oh, there's my insurance cards that are,
Almost
I
expired now.
I needed them. Yeah, I think my car insurance renews next week. So like, yeah, those cards are null and void. My health insurance cards showed up. Oh, my race car trailer and my daily driver, the registrations for those need sent in to the state. I think the daily driver registration expires in like 2 days. So I know that PennDOT sent that probably 3 months ago, and it's just been sitting on my desk. I'm real good at that. And then like my credit card, I went to swipe that the other day at Home Depot for like $50, and it didn't go through. And I'm like, I know there's nothing on that, and I know what the limit is. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. No, it's expired. The new one's been sitting on the desk. Like, I opened it yesterday, and it's like, oh, you need to like
I'll deal
register
with that
this. And I
now.
was like, oh yeah, I remember when that showed up, but
Yeah. Like, I'll deal with
just
that,
dumb. You need
but
to
I'm not busy.
you need to start asking people how good they are at opening their personal
Yeah.
mail, and I'm telling you, you're gonna find a trend here. For better or for worse, you're gonna find a trend.
You're probably right, because like personal mail wise now, I have to open it all. because like medical stuff, right? My wife has medical issues, so like we got to make sure that those get open. I don't have any like, for some reason, all the doctors around here that are in my network, none of them have just like online payment portals, so like that shit comes in the mail and I'm like, fuck, I gotta pay that. But like I have a story. So right when I ended up moving to Kentucky for that year, I had apparently at some point I had gotten a disbursement from my old mortgage escrow that was like $2,500 or something that I opened a year later. And like obviously the check was expired. I still haven't tracked it down. There's like $2,500 somewhere with some escrow company in Michigan that I need to track down and figure out how to get my hands on. Because I just didn't open the fucking letter. Um, yeah, like I'm terrible with opening, but like business stuff, right? So I've been
Yeah, you
dealing
better
with
figure that out.
yeah, I know. Business stuff like my I
That
forgot
sounds
to
like
file
suspension
a
for the LS
report with my
400 to
old
me.
LLC because I've been trying to close it in Kentucky and just get that shit done. I forgot to file a report, so I'm in bad standing with my old LLC. Um, and I've been
Mm,
trying to deal with that. And yeah,
neat.
that comes in, and I open that email comes in. I'm checking that immediately. I'm like on it right away, but you know, they didn't. This stuff didn't come in the mail because it was when I was in my transition to Ohio, and so I missed it.
Gotta love it.
Yeah,
I told you. You see,
yeah.
you don't even need to find the trend. You're seeing that you're also kind of part of the trend.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because I sit there like I didn't like I'll get this like paperwork or whatever, right? And I'll be like, yeah, I need to do that, but also I need to write 3 shorts for next week. Or like I need to, do some research on this topic or whatever. And so, I'll spend time like literally I have a textbook, like this has been sitting open. It just sits at my desk. So when I'm working and I get bored for 5 minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna read that, you know.
I know I've told you before, but I need to tell you again how well you do with the shorts. And I know you said, like, oh, yeah, this might take 10 minutes to explain, but now I need to try to dumb it down and cut it into like 2.5 minutes. You do a really good job with it. I've learned a lot because there's a lot of things that I would like to learn, but I don't have the attention span to sit down and watch a 30-minute video on it. So I'm like, oh, Mike posted a new video. Let's sit here and learn something. And sometimes it's above my pay grade, and other times I'm like, okay, I can follow this. But you do a really good job with that, and you need to continue to do that because I mean, you're already seeing growth on your accounts and it seems to be trending in the right direction. But I think you're going to have the market cornered as far as like really technical stuff, but also short form.
That's yeah. People ask me over and over again, like, "Are you going to do YouTube?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's two things. One, I have a short attention span, so I don't know if I would want to watch a 10 minute, 15 minute, half hour long technical video. Like I'll do it if I have to because I really need to learn a topic, but I don't really want to. Um, and then the other side of it is, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this at some point, the time invest for a short form video versus the time invest for trying to go something like 8 to 10 minutes. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
twice. It's not 2, 3 times as long. It's 10 times as long
Well, that's kind of
because
why
once
I got away from doing the long form stuff on YouTube. I have a
Mhm.
Pizza Boy Metalworks channel now that actually just hit 900 subscribers, I think, yesterday. I've been
Very
doing
nice.
one short a day, and I'm trying to do one long form a month. And it's been good so far, but I used to have a channel called Horsepower and Pizza that I would do a lot of long form stuff. It was a lot of drifting videos and car setup and not like good car setup. It was just me and my friends filming what we were doing.
I was like, fuck it, let's
But
just show people what we're doing.
I got sick of spending, you know, 8 hours making a video because we would film everything that we did in the shop that day and it might be 8 hours. Well, then I'd sit down and I'd edit it. And because I'm a perfectionist, it would take me 4 or 5 hours to edit it between the perfectionism and the short attention span and having to take breaks and whatever. And then I'd post it.
Yep.
So now I'm in it like 15 hours to make one video that's 8 or 10 minutes long and it would get 30 views. And I'm like,
Yeah.
something's wrong with the algorithm on that channel, I think, because there's no reason I should have 2,000 subscribers and get 30 views on a video, but I digress. That's I don't know.
It's
I just got sick of
probably
doing it.
YouTube's algorithm because YouTube doesn't feed. It's the reason I don't like posting YouTube stuff. They don't feed your videos to your subscribers, right? YouTube is just like,
Right.
how do I shove all of the slop from the largest channels down your throat? Um, my YouTube algorithm is basically just like, I don't even remember at this point. It's like Alex, uh occasionally I'll get something from somebody else, and then like I'll get tech videos or like what the hell's his name? Tommy G, right? Like his stuff because I think that's
Okay.
fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's because I don't watch a lot of car content. That's another thing. Like I was watching a ton of car content. Now I'm making this regularly, and I feel like Jordan.
Oh
Where
yeah,
I'm just
Jordan does not watch. It's hysterical to travel with Jordan. We're talking about Shipbox Garage
yeah.
for
By
any
the
of you
way, yeah,
guys that are not in tune. Jordan is a sweetheart of a person. Jordan is probably one of my best friends. And everybody realize like he's a degenerate on the internet. And then I have friends like in real life friends that are like, "Oh, you're friends with that guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "He's kind of a douchebag." And I'm like, "He's really not.
no,
Like, I'll get you
no,
around him." And they will meet him and they're like, "Oh my god, he is one of the most genuine people." He called me last week. He's like, "I'm going to FaceTime you." And I'm like, "Oh god, this ought to be good." He was at the Porsche Experience Center in the race shop and he's like, "Here, I figured you'd appreciate this." Like out of nowhere. I hadn't talked to him since PRI. I was like, "Okay, well, thank you. That was very sweet of you." Jordan is great, but it's funny when you travel with him cuz you'll run into somebody. I'll just use Chelsea Denofa as an example because
yeah,
he's huge in the drift world. Anybody that's into drifting knows who Chelsea is. You'll run into Chelsea, and Jordan will make some snide, off the wall remark, and then be like you'll like hit him with the elbow, and you'll walk away, and I'm like, why the fuck would you say something like that? And he's like, wait, who was that? And then you tell him, and he's like, well, who's that? Like he has no idea who anybody is that he's talking to. He did it to
yeah,
Rad Dan at PRI 2 years ago. He's like, "Oh, you're a super guy," and Dan's like, "Yeah." Dan's real low key. He's like, "Yeah," and Jordan's like, "Oh yeah, I have this IS 300." Starts spitting like all the stuff about his car, and he's like, "Yeah, I used to live in San Diego," and of course Dan's from Southern California somewhere. And he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "This shop does my work," and Jordan's like, "Oh yeah, that guy had my car. He's an absolute douchebag," and I'm like, "You stop. Just we're gonna walk away now." And it's like having a little brother that you never know what's
yeah,
gonna come out of his mouth. It's hysterical. Sorry, I'm
yeah.
sure
I
you had
didn't.
other questions that you wanted me to answer, and now
No,
I'm just
no, you're
sitting here.
good. I mean, you're right though, because like I didn't get to see a ton of Jordan at SEMA, but I got to see him a little bit at SEMA, and he'd do the same. Like he's telling me something. He's like, yeah, I think I might be doing something with like James Pumphrey or whatever. And I'm like, he's like, I don't know. He's supposedly some big like donut guy. And I'm like, you have no
Yeah,
idea who he is. Like,
he has
he
no
looks me dead
idea.
in the eyes. He's like, Mike, I told you, I don't fucking watch car content.
He doesn't.
It's
It's
so straight.
hysterical. I'll
Yeah.
send him a video. Like when I did the steering wheel, I sent the video to our group chat, and he's like, "Wow, you're really good at this." And he's like, "Sorry, I'll probably never watch another video that you make." And I'm like, "I
Yep.
mean, fair."
Yeah. No, I think I heard from him sometime around like New Year's, and then yeah, he's been busy since. So, but no, yeah, it's
He's so funny.
seriously
He
not
is
that
a
he needs
completely
art, not that he
different
needs us
person.
talking about him.
Well, just on camera and off camera, he is a completely different
Yeah.
person, but there's that level of cluelessness the whole way across the board. It's great.
Oh
I
yeah.
wish I was that like unaware of things going on in the industry.
I have the same feeling he has occasionally, like as this has gotten, I've gotten up to like 5,000 or so followers on Instagram, and he's like, I don't know why people listen to me, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know why people listen to me. Like I have the same. It's got to be weird because I mean he's smarter than he gives himself credit for,
He really
um,
is.
but it's got to be. I guess maybe I gotta ask down that line, imposter syndrome. Like, do you ever really deal with? Ah, dude, why? Like, how do people pay me for this? Like, I'm just some dude.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because you had texted me. was like last week or 2 weeks ago when you had
Yeah.
crossed from like 2,000 to 3,000 followers on Instagram. It's
Yeah.
something
It was
about
like
in
in a
that
month.
range because I've never had like Horsepower and Pizza has 2,100 followers on that Instagram, which I don't. I
Mhm.
post like travel stuff and car stuff there.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with it like I used to. Pizza Boy I use all the time, and I was at like 2,200 followers or something like that. Well, I posted my video on Saturday about my marketing strategy. And for those of you, I'll just summarize it here. My entire marketing strategy is scrolling Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I don't really get on Facebook and I don't touch Twitter anymore. But I scroll through these
It's
social media
bad.
platforms, and anybody that is building cool things, I will comment, hey, great build. I love what you're doing here. Please let me know if you ever need any billet work or machine work. Sometimes I get work,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't. The video that I posted about this on Saturday was explaining that the parts that I was doing were for a guy who was 3D printing all sorts of prototype stuff. And I commented, I was like, hey, if you need work, let me know. And he followed me and then messaged me almost immediately. He's like, yep, I'm emailing you these files. He's putting a case, I think it's a K20 or a K24. It's a K series, regardless, in
Mhm.
a Hyundai Genesis coupe. It's going to be a sick build. Come to find out, he's fairly local to me. Like he's like a couple hours away, so he's actually going to drive
Okay.
down and pick up the parts instead of me shipping them. So
Nice.
my video, I went into the whole tangent about how when I was in Japan last year, we went to Mines Tuning, we went to HKS, we went to Tome, we went to Yashio Factory, and there were a couple other shops where we just showed up at their shop and we're like, hey, we want to buy this. And they're like, all right, cool. And they sold us whatever we wanted. And a lot of the times they were like, hey, do you want to tour our shop while you're here? And we got really good conversation. And when we left HKS, I said, this is how I want to run my business in the States. I want people to feel comfortable hitting me up for stuff, showing up to buy it in person, hang out for a little bit if you want. I'll show you around, whatever. Take pictures as long as there's nothing in the shop that's under NDA or whatever. I don't care. I want to
Yeah.
have that customer facing, um, like keep it human, not just, I don't
Yeah.
just want people to go on, especially in today's day and age where everything is instant gratification. You have websites like Amazon where like you can order something and have it on your porch depending on where you live. You can have it on your porch within hours.
Yeah.
That's not that's not the business that I'm in, and I would like to have that like experience with the like, hey, I went and picked this part up from his shop, got to hang out with him for 20 minutes, and he was a really good dude, because that's going to spread further word of mouth than, just throwing a bunch of money at Facebook ads and letting that be my marketing strategy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, I posted this video explaining that. I posted it on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Instagram and TikTok, it popped off immediately.
Yeah.
Like when I say popped off, it did over 20,000 views in like the
That's
first
pretty good.
2 or 3 days. That's pretty good, especially for me. Like if I get a video that does more than like 5 or 6,000 views on Instagram, it's considered a banger. Well,
No, I
like I said,
understand.
I
Well, I
was
mean,
at
I
like
want to give you a little
22.
context on this, by the way,
Okay.
because I'm sorry to interrupt. But I want to give you a little
Sorry. No,
context
I
on this.
didn't answer your question at all. But
Go
where I was going
look.
with this was
It's okay.
you cut out. Sorry.
Sorry. All I was gonna say is to just give yourself some context whenever you're thinking about how good a video might do. Go look at somebody like Jordan's average viewers, like views on Instagram. Like of his last 3 videos he posted, 38, 10, and 128. So he had one super banger, but most of his videos are gonna perform in the same range that you're just in. So like feel good
Right.
about that.
No, I
You're
feel good
getting
about it.
views that somebody with like a couple 100,000 followers gets.
But that's where I was going with all of this is you and I were talking about when you went from 2 to 3,000 followers like that, you text me, you're like, dude, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do because every time I open the app, I have another 100 followers. That has been my week. I had
Yeah.
2,200 followers on Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember. And then like yesterday, I hit 2,500 and I was like, whoa, that's awesome. And then today, in the time that we have been on this call, I've hit 3,200. So I've gone up a
That
thousand followers on
nice.
there and like 500 or 600 on TikTok in the last week.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird. It's been really cool because I've gotten a lot of good conversation out of it. I've gotten a lot of emails for, hey, can you quote this for me? Which is good. That's the whole purpose of this. That was the whole. I'm glad that it found the audience that I was looking for. But it's definitely the imposter syndrome thing doesn't hit me as hard now as it did the first year I went to PRI would have been 2023. That was the first year that I went to SEMA, and it was the first year that I went to PRI. 2023 was a really weird year for me because I was going through a lot, and with my work schedule and everything, I was able to travel and drift and do all sorts of stuff that I hadn't previously had the time or freedom to do. So I ran wild that year and I had a lot of fun. But
Mhm.
then come the fall, it was like I think out of the last 12 weeks of the year, the last 12 weekends of the year, I think I was gone 11 of them. There was like one weird one. I think it was like Thanksgiving weekend I was home. And that was it.
Mhm.
So I'm in Vegas for for SEMA in the beginning of November, end of October, whatever it was. And I was with Matt Sixberry, I was with Jordan, I was with that whole group. That was the first time I had met any of
Yeah.
them, mind you. I flew in and stayed in an Airbnb with all of them, and I think that was my first time to Vegas. I think because I was so just overstimulated from traveling so much, I don't think SEMA hit me as hard as it should have, considering it was something that I had wanted to participate in for like 15 years at that point, and I finally got to go. I really enjoyed myself. I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of cool people. I saw a lot of cool stuff. But then as that traveling every weekend kind of tapered off and we got into PRI, which was one of my last weekends away, I think that was the last weekend I was away that year. I remember walking around PRI and I looked at Chance and my buddy Jake was with us and I was like, I have no business being here. Like, I really had no business being at SEMA because I hadn't really built anything at that point, but I was there and I had fun. Whereas PRI, I treat more as like a business trip and a networking experience than
Mhm.
a vacation like Vegas is.
Yeah.
And I remember saying out loud, I have no business being here. And of course, my friends are like, shut up. Like, yes, you build cool stuff all the time. And it was just one of those, like, I had like almost, I know I told you this before SEMA this past year because you're like, what should I expect? And I was like, oh, it might hit you harder than you think. But it hit me like a truck. And I had like full blown panic attack. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. And then the following year we went and it was me and a bunch of the guys that I drift with, and like we had fun and we networked really well. And it's just because everything has snowballed for me the way that it has. This past year at SEMA, I was like, or not, I didn't go to SEMA this past year at PRI. You know, I try to be humble, I really do, but I had just delivered that steering wheel to the guy in
Yeah.
Texas that I built that for. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling myself a little bit after that one, and I walked into PRI like I owned that motherfucker, and I talked to anybody that I could get within arm's reach of. I talked to Ryan Turk, I talked to Chelsea, I just anybody and everybody that I could, get around and at least try to have a conversation with, I did, and it was I think the imposter syndrome starts to wear off once you start. It's like the pencil theory, right? Like a pencil, a sharpened pencil. It's easy to look good when you haven't done any work,
Yeah.
and then when you start producing and you start making stuff and you have people paying you for it, that imposter syndrome goes away because I think deep down, even if you're not a really confident person, I think deep down your subconscious kind of understands like, look, you belong here. You make things. People buy them from you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing because if I had the amount of confidence in any other aspect of my life that I have when it comes to business and machining and just what I do for a living, I'm very confident and very um I don't want to say set in my ways. That's not I feel very established even though I am the little fish in the big pond. And
Yeah.
I know that I can get there. It's just a matter of scaling. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Again, a
You've
long
done
tangent.
that
I'm
first
very
column.
long-winded if you haven't picked up on that.
Yeah, it's I get what you're getting at though, because you know what you're saying, right? It's I felt similar to it away to a degree. It was like going into SEMA at first, right? Because last year was my first year, and I went with my company, not my company, the company I work for, I should say. And I walked in, and it was like, okay, like this is a big exhibition, and it sort of just it felt like a trade show. Like I've been to a fucking trade show before. I've been to SA World Congress, and all these other ones for my OE stuff, and I'm walking around. And I think it was like sometime early in the first day, Jordan said that he was going to be at the throttle reveal for the Ford GT, and I went over there, and then and he's like, "Oh, and here by the way, here's my buddy Cho," and I'm like, "I know who this dude is." And then I'm like looking around. I'm like, "There's Quinn and there's Jordan and this is Cho," and I'm like, these are serious people. And it was for me, right? Because I had just kind of started making some videos. Like, yeah, Jordan's, a goof and Cho's kind of a goof, but like watching them operate at SEMA, watching them work the crowd, the people at SEMA, I'm like, oh, there's fucking levels to this. And then it was day two. I'm sitting at like coffee and conversation for the WTSB, and Alex Martinez walks in with Lars and Dustin Korth, and I'm like, I should talk to Alex. I should fucking talk to him. And it took me like me feeling like a little fish, right? Because let's be honest, in this era of the aftermarket culture, Alex is a big name. To just be like, hey, Alex, we should talk, and like then I didn't end up ultimately getting to talk to him. Like he actually came and talked to the marketing director for the company I work for the next day. But then subsequently, right, I've had phone calls with him for the company I work for and like had conversations with him, emails back and forth, like business related stuff. And it's like watching him operate at SEMA was even another thing because I'd be watching him stand there talk about a car, right? He's shooting a short. And then I'd see the damn thing on Instagram 4 hours later. I'm like, I know you haven't left, dude. I know you have. So you have a pipeline. This is a
Right.
media. This isn't just like a social media. This is an empire. You're
Right.
cutting stuff. You're sending it off to people. You've got handlers with you. Like when I said something about talking, he turns to Dustin. He's like, "What's my schedule?" You know, like there's levels to this. We look around, like I was looking around and I'm like, oh my God, like this is what it takes. And, coming away from that, that's sort of where I was like, all right, I've kind of got what I'm doing, but I need to keep refining it. I need to keep going. Okay, fine. You do one technical a week. Let's get that to two. Now let's get that to three, all right, now let's get the podcast going. And that's, and yeah, like you said, it's grown. It was a crazy day when like Josiah reaches out to me and is like, "Hey, I like your content. Let's talk." And
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
Chelsea Denofa did reach out, and we were supposed to talk, and then he hasn't said anything back. And missed the day we were supposed to talk, which I imagine is probably just him being a massive person that has a lot of stuff too. So I'm gonna probably poke him again and see if he still wants to talk tires. But it's, like I remember I texted you. I was like sitting there freaking Wednesday night. I get a message on Instagram from Chelsea to know if I'm like, what the fuck is my life right now?
That's
And
nuts. I mean, he's so normal though. Like I actually reached out to him about the GT4 parts when I was trying to get rid of that stuff, and he emailed me back almost immediately.
oh
And I
yeah,
was like, "Oh wow!" Like I thought this was just gonna like get lost in the spam folder somewhere, but um,
yeah,
no, the motorsports industry is crazy because it's so big, but at the same time, it is incredibly small.
yeah,
If that makes sense, like it's so close knit, and it's like it's a blessing and a curse because you can get around people very easily if you know who to ask and who to network yourself with. But if you piss somebody off, you're going to get blacklisted from the industry pretty easily. But
believe that.
that's anything really, any industry. If you're a bad person, it's going to come to light sooner than later, usually.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that. So cool. It's been a good conversation, but I know you got stuff to do. I can feel I got things going on tweaking. Plus, it's nine
Sorry, I
o'clock for me.
answered probably none of your questions. It's been
Nah, it's
it's
good. My goal with this, and I mean, this is like the second interview I've done, right? Somehow the first freaking interview I did was Josiah Fillets, which is still kind of like blows my
yeah,
mind.
and then you put me right after him and make me look like an idiot. I see what you did there.
It's okay. The next one's Luke.
Oh, yeah, that's I haven't even posted my podcast with Luke because his wife and Grant's girlfriend were both intoxicated and off to the side, and I guarantee you can hear them in the recording. So I haven't even sat down to listen to it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a remote with him, and then the next one is actually Bad Investment Builds. Who, if you don't follow him, you should. He's actually a really good friend of mine now. We worked together at Chrysler. He
Oh,
was the
okay,
one. He's the dude that taught me car control. Um,
okay. I'll have
so
to look him
he's
up.
the one. He's he's a super super advanced vehicle dynamics engineer. Like he has his master's in dynamics.
Okay,
He's incredibly capable. Like I know what I know about tires. He knows more about vehicle dynamics. Um, he like is a brilliant dude, and he does like all his own machining. In his fucking garage, like I think he made a custom cradle for. I can't remember what it was, but like, he made like a custom cradle for somebody for their Honda. He sells like Honda short shift kits, things like that.
okay,
So he's got
that's
some cool
cool.
stuff.
No, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's making his favorite build of mine that he's working on that I really want him to finish is he has a Jeep Renegade that is slammed. So it's a 1.4 multi-air manual that he's slammed, and I think he's gonna take it rear wheel drive and fix this geometry so that he can take it drifting. Um,
That is an anomaly. I like it.
that's kind of the point. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to look into that.
He hasn't posted much about it, but yeah, I'm gonna do stuff with him. I'll probably do more involved things with him because we are friends. And um the story, I don't think I told much about it on when I was on the podcast with Josiah, but I almost rolled off a mountain um while I was out in Arizona doing a dynamics trip with him because I was my first time off-roading and I took a Jeep Renegade. So
Makes
um
sense.
yeah. Yeah, no, his method of teaching me car control was like, the old method of like you throw the plastic trays under the rear wheels.
Yes.
Um,
That was one of my
Basically,
first YouTube videos.
they have there's I don't know if they still make them, but they were like drifties or something like that, right? They're fucking plastic wheels, like they're plastic tires that you stick over a set of tires, inflate, and then you just like threw them on the rear axle. And
Okay.
he's like, all right, here's the 25, 50, 75, 100, 150 concentric circles on the VDA. You got the rear wheels. It's a manual Fiat 500 of Barth. You can stop when you can make it through all the circles 5 laps. without losing it. And in a Barth, right, has the yaw moment is insane, and those cars have no angle. So you can't, like, you have to catch it the moment it goes, and it was just over and over and over and over until I finally got it. That's how I learned catch and release and holding an angle was on a 500 of Barth with no rip on the rear tires.
We need to put you in like a
Um,
C5. You'd be fine.
I
If
haven't
you can do it in
I
an
haven't
Abarth, you could drive a C5.
I haven't driven like at the limit or after the limit in so long. I really want to. But somehow I got to find a way to fund the Lexus build. I'll figure that out. That's my
Should probably
next
go find that
problem to solve.
escrow check.
Part of it, yeah, part of it, but also I think I told you about the $28,000 repair bill on my house. So like,
Yeah, adulting sucks.
yeah, it kind of does. No, I have a DRZ 400S in Michigan that just needs the carb fixed, and I can sell that. That's like $2,500. So
There you go.
yeah.
Look at you making
Anyway,
making things happen.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Now I just got to find time
We're
to go to
all
Michigan.
trying, buddy. We are all trying.
First order of business is get this Kentucky LLC shit figured out. That's my first thing. Then I'll move on from that. Um. Anyway, I'll probably cut some of that stuff out.
That's
But
completely fair.
that
Sorry. This was way less organized
no, you're
than
all
I
good.
think you anticipated.